welcome to the Arsenal Show. We are live. And after another defeat in the run-in for the top four, what has happened to Arsenal? Is Mikel Arteta overthinking things? Is he underestimating his opponents? Or has it just got to the point where the youngsters are feeling the pressure? We're going to be discussing that tonight and a little bit more. I'm joined by Steve K. How you doing, Steve?
Yeah, how you doing, Kieran? I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's it was a pretty bad performance, wasn't it, the weekend? But let's just try and get into it.
Yeah, I think that's all you can do. And I'm joined by Jerome Marks. How you doing, Jerome?
Yeah, fine, thanks. All good.
All right. How's everyone feeling? They're feeling the positive side of things, or is it a bit downbeat?
Go on, John.
I think it's hard to feel positive at the moment. Just from the position we were in, literally a few weeks ago. You know, the images that we all saw of the Arsenal fans chanting Mikel Arteta's name in the stands. That seems like a very long time ago, doesn't it?
And it wasn't even that long ago.
You're talking a few weeks. You're literally talking a few weeks.
Yeah.
You're talking about going from sort of not one extreme to the other, but not a million miles away. And yeah, it's hard to find the positives at the moment in terms of for the rest of this season. Beyond that, I don't know, but we've pinned our hopes so much, or we got our hopes up that we were going to, get into the top four. And now it seems, although mathematically it's very much still doable, but in terms of like the players we've got between now and the rest of the season, it just seems so far away, doesn't it? Well, that's how I feel anyway. It seems a long way away.
All right, Steve, what's your thoughts on the situation at the moment?
I just think our fears that we've had in the past that we've mentioned on the show are coming home to roost, and we was hoping that they wasn't going to happen, and they are, and those things are like key players getting injured, players like Kieran Tierney and Thomas Partey, two players that, if you had to pick two players you didn't want to get injured at this time of the season, you probably would have picked those two. And that's just, you could say that's unlucky. But and we go to the squad and we've not got the players to replace them. But we knew that, we knew that we didn't have the players to replace, key players if they got injured. Or we may have had a couple in a couple of areas, but the majority of areas we never had them. We was also worried about form. If certain players like Lacazette went off form, we needed Lacazette to sort of carry on, on the trait that he was going on with, about a month ago. He stopped. He's now had 3 games on the spin where he just he's not doing it. And again, we haven't got the players off the bench to replace him or to do his type of job for the club. So those are the things. There's the goals. They've dried up. The midfield players have stopped scoring, which again we said would possibly happen. And if that was the case, we needed Lacazette to score. We needed a centre forward to score. We needed a centre forward to come off the bench to score. And it's not all there. And what's happened is instead of one happening at the same coming, here and there, it's all came at once, and it's all hit at the wrong time. And all those fears have hit the ones, at the same time. So yeah, it's a bit worrying for those last 8 games, especially with the games that we've got coming ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Jerome, what went wrong against Brighton? I know you spoke about it the other day, but we're going to go more in depth today. What went wrong against Brighton?
Yeah, well, I guess the lineup was a pretty bad start in terms of moving Xhaka to left back and weakening. Probably even when everyone is fit, we've got everyone available. For me, the midfield is the weakest part of that team when everyone is available. I tell you what, striker, but that's one player. Other than that, the midfield is the weakest part when everyone's available. And so what you've done is you've taken out your best midfielder because he's obviously not available, and you've made it even weaker by taking out the next best centre midfielder you've got. That's which you've already done last season, and you paid a price for it because you got knocked out of the European Cup, the Europa League. I just can't believe he done it. I mean, he's got all the coaching badges, the tactical nous, but you go down the pub and ask a guy that's never kicked a ball before, like, what's going to make this team weaker? And they know that. You can't have Partey and Xhaka both out your centre midfield. It's just obvious. And that's for me, that's what's ultimately cost us. And then you can add the other bits, like maybe the young players are perhaps a bit nervous. Like there's a lot of pressure on them. There might be shattered players like Lacazette. He's played virtually since Aubameyang left. He's played virtually every minute. You've got your second choice right back. That look, before the season started, if you were to say Cedric's going to play more minutes than Tomiyasu, Lacazette's going to play more minutes than Aubameyang, and we're going to finish fourth, you'd be like, no, that's not going to happen. And and so it's not turned out, but it's looking likely. But for me, it's that manager's selection decision was mental, and that's what ultimately cost us.
Okay, let's stick with the formation just for now. Steve, what do you think the manager's thinking was behind moving Granit Xhaka into left back? And what was your first thoughts when you saw that?
I was shocked. Yeah, I was quite shocked because the same as Jerome has just said there, to bring in our main centre midfield player that we've got. Obviously Partey's there, but he obviously was injured, and to put him on a left back position and just to leave our midfield wide open was it absolutely it baffled me. I mean, second half, as soon as Xhaka went into the midfield, we looked a different team. We started controlling the game a little bit more. We looked a bit much better. But then I thought you was going to bring Tavares on, and then I was just like even more shocked when I see that he's put Martinelli as left back, and we've got Tavares sitting on the bench. That blew me away. That one, I just could not get my head around it. But I was saying to Jerome, in the post match, that there wasn't a lot he could get wrong, Arteta, in the team choice. He could either do this or he could have even done that. But Arteta went and done something totally, off base, which none of us expected. And because to leave Lokonga in the midfield, you would think, well, then, was Elneny in there? Odegaard had a bad game because he was out of position. Everything was mess because of that one move of putting Xhaka in that left back position. And he had a terrible day at the office, Arteta. A terrible day at the office. I think, like when Jerome said there, the midfield is the weakest. I wouldn't say it was the weakest as in the 11. I'd say it was definitely the weakest. I don't know if that's what Jerome meant by as a squad. In other words, if one gets injured, then we're knackered. I think Partey and Xhaka are very good if they're together. I think they've proved that they're very good midfield pairing. But as a whole and as a midfield, as a squad, with Jerome's spot on there. There's nothing. If one gets injured, that's it. The whole midfield just blows up. And the Conga done his best. I don't think Lacazette should have started. As I say, there wasn't a lot he could have done wrong, but he seemed to be just each thing, from the midfield to the left back to playing Lacazette, everything was out of sync. And that made other players play bad. It made Odegaard play bad. He looked bad on the day. Smith-Rowe had a terrible game. He looked bad. It can only take one silly move or a couple of silly moves in the wrong position. And how must Tavares feel? He must feel awful. He's put a midfield player who's mega, mega important to Arsenal, even more so important because Partey's not there, and he's put him as left back. Tavares, can you imagine me on the bench? He must be thinking, wow, am I that bad? And even when he changes it into the second half and puts Xhaka into the middle, Tavares must be thinking, well, I'm coming on there. But then he puts Martinelli, our most dangerous attacker, who we need 2 goals, as left back. So again, that's baffling. And also, again, Tavares on the bench. He must be thinking, God, does he think I'm that bad? But it was an awful. I just didn't know what he was doing. It was a terrible, terrible day for him.
Yeah, it was not good. Jerome, do the players have a part to play in this? Because yes, the formation was all over the place, but there was still a lot missing from Arsenal's performance on an individual level as well.
Yeah, that doesn't help things, because you're right. Maybe they didn't look as energetic. Perhaps they weren't maybe moving the ball as quickly. So you can I guess, if you want to put some of the blame down to the players, you can. But I just think that selection didn't help them at all, and they're used to playing a certain way. They're used to seeing Xhaka in the midfield. They're not used to seeing Xhaka at left back, and that because Arteta is such a tactical coach, I just think that making those changes, maybe they weren't exactly sure what they should be doing because they were playing in a slightly different way. You can go one by one, I guess, and say he had a bad game. He had a bad game, but in terms of like the pointing the blame, it's more the manager than the players for me.
So what does he do with Tavares now, in your eyes? Does he bring him back in? Does he dust him off? Tell him it was a tactical thing that he tried, it didn't work? What would you do with Tavares if you would have left him out the game and you're thinking, do I bring him back in? Do I stick with Xhaka? What would you do now?
Oh, well, he can't play. For me, he can't play Xhaka left back against Southampton. I think it's impossible. So if it was me, I'd play Tavares. Like he's had what 70 odd minutes of poor football, and all of a sudden, like, he's not even trusted at home to Brighton. And who was Brighton's right midfielder that Tavares would have been up against? Like, I don't even know who it would have been. I can't remember. He weren't exactly playing.
We had Lampsey, wasn't it? Lampsey was going.
He was on the bench.
He was on the bench.
I'm telling you, you're not playing against Mo Salah when you're playing Brighton at home. You're going to have a lot of the ball.
Frustrating.
I don't think he'll bring him back in. I think he obviously doesn't trust him. Because if he trusted him, he'd either have started or he'd have come on as sub. I think what he'll do, he might play Cedric at left back and play Ben White right back and bring Rob Holding in. But for me, you've got to play Tavares. You've got to do it.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is you play Xhaka and Lokonga in midfield. They're the first 2 names in terms of, like, on the team sheet. You put them in your centre midfield, and you don't leave your midfield so bare and weak and unable to control the game.
Steve, what does Tavares do now? What does Mikel Arteta do with Tavares? Dust him off? Is it time to bring him back in? Do you play Xhaka? What's Arteta going to do now?
Yeah, he's got to have a word with Tavares in his ear after that game and explain to him why he never played him. Because, we've watched enough football over the years to know that if that was us, we'd be knocking on the manager's door and saying, "Oh, what was all that about? Why was you playing players in midfielders and attacking forwards in my position when I'm sitting on the bench waiting to come on? What's going on here?" So either Arteta don't fancy him at all, then don't play him and sell him then, if that's the case, because I just can't get my head around that. But as to what I should do, it should be playing him. You got to play him. You can't start putting square pegs in round holes. We could have done that earlier in the season. We could have messed about with, playing Pepe's in false nines. We could have done a few different things, change a few things, see what works. But you can't do it now with 7 games to go, and we've still got a chance in the Champions League. He's got to play left backs in left back positions. You can't start playing attacking midfield players and attacking forwards in a left back position. I don't know how he expected to win the game. I mean, I love Arteta. I love him, and I'll stand by him, and and I will.
Oh, I think this our Arteta haters are locking Steve off there. But Jerome,
you know what it is?
go on.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, go on.
Oh,
he's back.
He's back. Here he is.
I don't know. I don't know what happened there. I think Mikel Arteta might have the switch on and off button. Get him off. He's talking a load of old crap. He is. Get him off. But I don't know where I was. But it's
you love Arteta.
Yeah, I love Arteta, but you've got to play players in their right positions, and even more so now. Jerome's 100% right. Xhaka has got to play in that midfield. I'd love to sit him down and say, what was your thinking of playing Xhaka out, in that left back position? It totally baffled me. But for me, you said about individuals, Kieran. I think the team selection hindered the way our players played, because I just thought they was all in square pegs and round holes. They didn't know what was going on. I mean, Lacazette had another nightmare. That was, that was something. But yeah, he's got to play players in the right positions. I thought Cedric had another good game, by the way. But I thought Lukonga had a good game. And considering he was he had Odegaard in the midfield with him, and the first half, I thought he done really well. I thought he was one of their better players. But yeah, Tavares has got to play and get Lacazette out. There's not a lot more we can do.
Do you genuinely see him changing things? Because after the game, he seemed more frustrated with the performance than a formation change. He's moved Odegaard and Smith Rowe into deeper positions, which then kind of essentially lost the link-up play with Saka, Martinelli, and Lacazette. The Congo sat in the middle, but prior to Xhaka's being at left back in the Villarreal game last season, there was games where Xhaka playing at left back actually worked. So what's stopping the manager from sticking to that and double down with his players that are there?
You're right, and I think the one trait that I think Arteta's got in him, I'm not saying he's got it from Wenger, because it's just a trait that anyone can have, but I think he's quite stubborn, and I think he's quite set in his beliefs. And if he feels that Xhaka playing at left back is for the best. Has the best interest of the team at heart, and he thinks that's going to be the best for the team, he's going to stick with it. He's not going to hear what fans say and think, he doesn't want me to play him there, so I'm going to play Xhaka back in the midfield. If he'll play, I can easily see him playing Xhaka. If you were to ask me what's the most likely thing that will happen on Saturday, I would say the most likely is Xhaka will stay at left back, and I think he'll stick with it. I hope he doesn't, but it's a bit like Lacazette up front. What has Lacazette got to do to not be in the team? How bad has he got to play for him to be dropped from the team? Tavares has 70 minutes of poor football. All of a sudden, that could be his Arsenal career done. And as a manager and as someone he's one of Arteta's players, he bought him. So, and this is where the management comes into play. This is where maybe he hasn't had the experience of when he was at Man City. It's very rare that players have dips in form, perhaps, whereas now he's at our club and the level of player isn't as high as at Man City. So you're going to get these periods when players, especially if they're young, have either off games or off days, and you've got to manage them. You can't just all of a sudden a player with a couple of bad games and that's it, you never see him again. because then you'll be left with no players. So he's like Steve said, I like Arteta a lot. I think he's brilliant, and I think he's got loads of potential. But these instances is maybe where some of his inexperience is showing. But I don't think it's inexperience to play Xhaka at left back when you know that your midfield is going to be significantly weakened. And I think with Smith Rowe, he's been brilliant for us on the left wing. Him or Martinelli playing there, bringing him further deeper in field. Like he's too young for that job yet. This is what Wenger was brilliant at. He'd leave a young player probably out on the wing, because when you move a player into the middle, it's a whole different ball game. It's a completely different role, and he might have the potential to play there later in his career. But for the moment, for this team, playing next to Lokonga, his first year in English football, like it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And with all the will in the world, they might look brilliant. They might look brilliant in training when they're playing, but when you're playing against other teams that are well drilled and have got strong, experienced, athletic midfielders, like it ain't going to work then. And I hopefully he'll have learned. But my worry is that maybe he will be stubborn and he'll just pick the same team again and hope that it works.
Steve, Tavares early on in the season was held down a spot. Kieran Tierney came back from injury, and Tavares was still in that spot, still got his games, links with Man City. But what is it potentially that Tavares has done that is pushed Arteta to the point where he doesn't seem like he trusts the player? On paper, from our point of view, he's had 2 bad games. In the second one, Mikel Arteta said that it was a tactical change. If it's a tactical change, what has made Arteta completely change and move his best midfielder at the moment into left back?
I think if anything, if Tavares has got a big weakness, I think it's his rashness. Where the rest of them seem very calm on the ball when they pass it around, and we all know that's the game that Arteta likes. With most of our players all good on the ball, all good passers. I've seen from the only thing I can think of with Tavares is that he does get himself into silly situations sometimes. He'll try and run with the ball from the left back position. He'll try and go past 3 players, and he'll try a shot when other players are on. When Smith Rowe and Odegaard are waiting for the ball, or one of these players will trip up. He'll fall over. He gets caught out of position. They're his faults. So, if anything, I think that's probably a few of the reasons why Arteta is probably just doesn't want him there, because he feels he probably needs someone like Xhaka as a left back, someone who's going to be trustworthy, disciplined, and probably where Tavares is of an age still a young man, probably trustworthy and disciplined ain't the 2 words that go for that you can put against the name of Nuno Tavares at the moment. I mean, he's, as I said, he's still young, and he'll grow and he'll learn that. So I'm assuming that he's putting Xhaka there because he'll do as he's told, and he'll do his bit. But even Xhaka, I mean, he was getting caught out of position. A couple of times for the goal, he was caught out of position. But he's used to going into the midfield. This is just his natural fault, in a game to move into midfield, and that's what he did when they got caught on for the goal. But yeah, I mean, I think he's just too rash, Kieran, at the minute. He needs to calm down. He needs to slow down. And if anything, Arteta he's probably thinking this is a type of a time of the seasons where I can't afford to have you falling over, doing passes across the box, losing the ball, which he has done, bless him. He's very good going forward. He's very strong, but he has been prone to a few mistakes, and it's probably a time in the season where he probably thought, I can't afford you to have mistakes. So, hence again, like I've already said, he's putting Xhaka there. That's the only reason I can think.
Do you think there was any element that he was testing Xhaka in this game before it gets to the games against United, Tottenham, Chelsea, when there's no room for error when it comes to the left back.
I tell you what, that's a fantastic point. That's a fantastic point, because when you think of Tavares in that position against them, and you think of the players who will be going at him then, like Jerome's already said, Brighton, who they've got going at him. There's not many people. You know, when he's up against, like you just said, the Man Uniteds, the Tottenhams, the West Hams, the Chelseas that we got to come. Even Southampton at the weekend, you know, they've got players. You know, it could have been a test. It never worked, did it? You know, because he must have seen, as soon as Jack at the midfield was just like you could have drove 3 like flipping, lorries through the middle in there. It just didn't work. But yeah, I mean, it's a good shout. I mean, they could easily have wanted to see what would happen, but I would have thought he would have known anyway. You know, as you already just said there, Kim, Jack has played there before.
He must see something in training. He must see something in training which he's not happy about.
Yeah, he must do, and it's got to be something to do with Tavares. It can't be nothing else. I mean, as I said, we said right at the beginning there. Okay, you've played him there. Fair enough. Get Xhaka back in the midfield. He's in there. Get Tavares on. It's still, I'd say, he's still sitting on that bench, and he's thinking, nah, I can't afford to put Tavares in that left back position. But you put out, we're 2-0 down, we need a goal, and you put our most dangerous player as a left back. It was a baffling one. As I say, I like Arteta, but it really got me. But it could be a test. But it's still whether it's Tavares or Xhaka and up against any of those players in those teams, they're going to be tough games.
Mm-hmm. Jerome, on paper, that was a very attacking team. But how did it not get going?
Yeah, it just shows you can't just throw all your attacking players on the pitch and just hope it'll work. I mean, look at Man United. So much attacking talent. You look at the names, you think, oh, this is a great team. But it's more about football's more about that than just having all your great attackers on the pitch. You know what? Like when people used to, like when there used to be training, they used to do like attackers v defenders, like in a side-by-side game. Defenders, like, yeah, you wouldn't think that. Like if you were a young kid and you had to bet on it, you'd say, yeah, the attackers will probably win. They'll score more goals and all that. But the defenders, because they're more organised, perhaps. So yeah, it doesn't work. Like on paper, I think I said it before we actually saw it. On paper, I said a centre midfield of any player plus a Odegaard and Smith Rowe. Oh, brilliant! It feels great, but in reality, and when you're playing against 2 or 3 very disciplined, strong, athletic centre midfield players that have been around the block or that know that position inside out, it just doesn't work. That they can't control a game. Xhaka is, although he's not some people's cup of tea, he knows the positions to be in. He knows when to maybe keep it safe, just keep the ball. He can control the tempo perhaps of the game a little bit more. But these players like Smith Rowe, he's not used to that. It's not how he's played football the last 10 years or so. So it just, in theory sounds great, but in reality, unfortunately, as much as we'd like it to, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, very true. Steve, Arsenal had pretty much their strongest team out, barring the likes of Tomiyasu. And to be fair, Security at left back. They had a pretty strong team out against Crystal Palace. And they put in a pretty average to lackluster performance against them in the end. How much is the age of this, the inexperience of this team playing in the pressure coming up into the final few games of the season?
Yeah, I mean they've not been there before, have they? I mean they're looking at social media, they're hearing what people are saying, they're hearing all the good things that are what they're saying about Arsenal, that they're in the papers they're favourites to get in the Champions League position. That it must put pressure on them, but the same sort of thing is that these are young people. Young people are not supposed to feel the pressure. They're the ones that, should be just going out there and should be just playing football. And to be honest, over the last few weeks, they've looked like that. They've gone behind against teams and they've got beat by teams and they've come back the following week and, as if nothing's happened. But they seem to have come to a stop now. As you said, Crystal Palace was it was awful performance, absolutely awful performance. And then Brighton, I mean, again, Arsenal seem to love throwing Europe and places away. We did it under Emery when, we had 6 games to go against teams that were nothing, and we went and blew it. I think we don't think we won a game. Sometimes it makes you wonder whether these guys want to be in the Champions League. But yeah, I mean, you have to look at it. You have to think. You have to look even at Saka. You have to look at Odegaard. You have to look at Martinelli's and yeah, they need help. They need experience. They need people. They need guidance on the football pitch. And Arsenal ain't got a lot of that. They've got Granit Xhaka, and they've got there's Thomas Partey's there, but he's not really a sort of a guide, a type captain type of player. The next one down is Kieran Tierney, and he seems to be made of glass. I can't believe how much he's injured the guy. Bless him. And the next one you got is Lacazette. So you're really struggling for leaders on that pitch. You're looking at players like Ramsdale was not really a leader. He's a goalkeeper, and you got White and Gabriel, and it's not. Every time we sort of said, who's going to be Arsenal's next captain? We struggled, didn't we? We sort of go, could he do it? Could he do it? Could he do it? We need captains on the pitch now, and we ain't got them. Yeah, and these young people need guidance, but because they haven't got in this position before, and but there's no one there. There's absolutely no one there. Who do you blame for that? Who do you blame? We was looking for players in the January transfer window. We never got them. That could be the thing that sort of bites us in the arse in the end by not bringing a couple of players in, especially a midfield player at least. But yeah, they need help. They look tired, and hopefully they'll hopefully in the next game on Saturday, they'll be able to turn it round again. But looking at Spurs at the moment, mate. To me, they look like they got it.
All right. Jerome, words from Mikel Arteta.
Are you optimistic of something happening this month for you in terms of incomings?
I'm always optimistic.
Does that sound like a man who doesn't feel like there's going to be players coming in January? And if so, who should we be looking at if it comes to the end of the season and we miss out on that top 4, or in all honesty, it's not just top 4; it's how we end the season. In my eyes, it's not just about missing out on top 4, because if we end up 6th and we end up losing the majority of the games of the season, and we're saved by some other teams losing as well, it's still going to be a poor end to the season. Who are we going to look at there?
So it's very, very easy looking back, isn't it, and criticising and saying what was wrong. I think, for me, if we're going to look back and criticise, I think that maybe you can only look at some obvious mistakes. And I think an obvious mistake was letting Aubameyang go and not bringing in another striker, and that's obviously Edu and Arteta, and just leaving Lacazette and Nketiah as the only 2 centre forwards at the club. I think that is a glaringly obvious mistake, knowing that neither of them are prolific. One of them hasn't scored all season, and it's just a terrible mistake. And that's the manager and Edu. Maybe they thought they had something lined up perhaps, and it fell through, or they were led down a garden path or something and nothing happened. But yeah, not getting a striker is just terrible. Everything else, we have been a bit unlucky with injuries, but but then that's why you've got a squad. They probably thought without you we can get away with it. I mean, I did like the idea of not strengthening unless the player that you really want is available. But yeah, if Arteta's only going to play a certain amount of players and he's going to drop players like your Tavares, then you're going to be left with a paper thin squad being even thinner.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, maybe it's you can't really blame Arteta and Edu. There's no one. I don't think there's anyone else really to put the blame on.
All right, Steve. Lacazette's had another stinker. 8 passes in the whole game, and if anyone saw that first one to Martinelli, I hope they weren't. I hope they weren't including that one in the 8 because that was pretty much epitomised the rest of his game, if I'm honest. However, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in the season of 2020 went large spells without scoring, and Mikel Arteta continued to play him 90 minutes each game. It went into 2021. The same happened. To be fair to Aubameyang, he had a pretty good start to the season. I think he got to 7 games, scored 4 goals, and looked a bit more lively. But then after that, there was a large spell where he didn't score and still got played. Is Aubameyang is Mikel Arteta really going to drop Lacazette in this running towards the end of the season?
He's got to, Kieran. Because he's not contributing in any way whatsoever in the last 3 games. Yeah, look, let's give him his dues. You know, he rolled up his sleeves. You know, we lauded him on the show, and he deserved what he deserved what we said about him. He was doing fantastically well. He was, you know, you could see on the pitch the way he was talking to the players. Etc. But he stopped. He stopped. The first game against Crystal Palace, he was it no Villa, wasn't it? It was Villa. He was dogs. And we said, right, against Crystal Palace, it's the one game, but he'll come back against Palace. I mean, if he was dogs against Villa, he was double that against Palace. He was absolute disaster. And then again yesterday, how can you can't keep playing him? Again, we always say, don't we? Yeah, let's keep players in. You know, don't drop them. You know, it'll happen. We're not at that stage of the season now where we can say, oh, go on, I'm going to have another go. Have another go. You might score next week. The games are running out. Who's more likely to get us a goal? Who's the more dangerous player up front? Is it Martinelli or is it Lacazette? It's Martinelli.
Right now, it's the tea lady. Like,
yeah. Go on, mate. Yeah,
Lacazette's been awful. And you're right. When he was playing well, it's credit where credit's due, and that's only fair. He wasn't scoring goals, but what he was doing, contributing to the team, was getting assists, bringing players into the game, drawing out defenders. But it's easy to defend now. Everything he plays in front of defenders. But are defenders breaking a sweat when they're playing against Lacazette at the moment?
Nah,
I could play centre back against Lacazette at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think they even know he's on the pitch because he doesn't go near them. He stays. He's so deep, and it's not as if he's this incredible creative, player that's gonna play these defence splitting passes and turn and play one around the corner. I don't know where. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how poorly he's got to play to get dropped. It's like he's undroppable. But I don't know if that's more to do with the alternatives rather than Lacazette, if you know what I mean. But it's just, look. We knew this. I think we knew this was coming. If you're going to have Lacazette as your main striker for the whole season, he's not a top 4 striker, and it'd be interesting to see if he doesn't sign an extension. I don't know where he's going to end up because he's only 30 years old, but it looks like he's sort of near retirement age in terms of a footballer, doesn't it? It looks like he's only got 1 or 2 seasons left in the game.
Feels like he's aged quickly.
Yeah,
it feels like he went from 27 to 35. And it's just in his face, the way he stands, his body, everything.
If you look at photos, the first season he was at the club, right? You get a photo up, which was only maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and you look at a photo of him then and look at a photo of him now. It looks about a 10-year age difference. He looks so young in that first photo. Like, honestly, have a look afterwards. It's like,
I looked. That's why I commented on it. I saw it and I thought,
he looks good. He looks good, doesn't he?
He looks so old now. He does. He's only 31. He's only 31. Like, we're talking about the prime of a striker's career.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Do you know what he looks like? Is that I think he must come off that pitch sometimes a bit embarrassed because he can't keep up with the players around him. You've got players like Smith Rowe, Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka, and they're all like zipping all over the pitch, running into channels, doing all this, and he can't keep up with them. He can't move. He can't, and then he's, you need a striker who can run into channels, and he can't do it. And to be fair, he hasn't scored the goals that we wanted him to score since the moment he's come to the club. To be fair.
100%.
But with you're talking about Aubameyang. Obviously I didn't want Aubameyang to go, but I know for a fact that he didn't want to play for Arsenal, so which saddens me. But so as much as we can talk about if like he didn't go, which I did a lot. I always go, we shouldn't have sold him. It's just ridiculous that we should have sold him. He didn't want to play. So, but again, and Jerome said, like, again, he's already mentioned it. We was all saying we didn't really want to, people didn't want to pay a certain amount of money to bring in a understudy, if you like, for 6 months. I know people didn't agree. A few people didn't agree. But if we did do that now, God, if we had a centre striker, a seasoned striker from another league who could come for 6 months or a year, we should have done it. We should have done it because we only had Nketiah, and that's all we had. And
I think Nathan said it on a show. I asked him a question about it before about the difference in top strikers, good strikers, elite strikers, Premier League strikers, world-class strikers, and Nathan said, it's very few players that have that mentality where they push themselves more and more and more to keep continuing to become better and better and better, which is why you look at the players like Cristiano Ronaldo, you look at players like Lionel Messi, and you laud them because of each year and year out, they're continually trying to strive to be better and better. Lacazette doesn't even have a player behind him where he's pushing him.
Yeah.
Lacazette hasn't got anyone behind his shoulder that's like, do you know what? If I don't step it up today, I might not play. If at 60 minutes I've not scored, I've not got certain amount of shots on goal, I might come off. There's nothing actually pushing him. So with regards to not having someone, bringing in someone in January or not having someone sort of behind him to push him, there's nothing there. And he can't even look now and think, oh, Martinelli might take my spot or Pepe might take my spot, because it just doesn't feel like the manager's even going to try anything there. He's more likely to pull out a central midfielder who's our only central midfielder, to then put him at left back and move 2 other people out of position and leave a player who he didn't trust earlier in the season to hold the central midfield, a position that Thomas Partey took a season and a half to get to where he is now. I just feel like right now there's a lot of inexperience in this team, where it's the manager, it's the players, and they're looking around and there's no real figures in and around the squad. upstairs, downstairs, or in the middle to sort of guide them in their way. And there's a bit of the blind leading the blind right now, and that's my worry. That's my worry.
Yes, great point.
I know,
great point about Lacazette. That is.
I know it's a different area of the table, but look at Chris Woods. Chris Woods has come in at Newcastle. He's smashing the goals. You know, he come from Burnley. That's what we could have done with. Put him on the bench. Come on, might have scored a couple of goals. Might have got us to the Champions League. You know, might have got us a draw against Brighton. You know, might have done something against Palace. Might have held up the ball enough up front to, you know, might have caused problems in the air. Made the centre halves think. Something. It's anything that. I mean, the last thing I want to do, right, is at the end of the season when we're doing our, you know, end of season show, is have to say, Nicky, I'm going to have a look at you because you made a few mistakes that could have cost us.
And it's not wrong to look at to question the manager. Like we're talking about three people who are big fans of Mikel Arteta and what he's doing and what he's done, and especially for me, the culture that he's brought to the club and the fan base that's starting to change as well. Although there's people that have got as brittle as Kieran Tierney's body at the moment. So, but if Arsenal end up sliding down the table, I can't argue with anyone that's questioning the position that Mikel Arteta is in. Now, I don't want him to go anywhere because I think he's brought a lot, and I think this team needs major reinforcements. Not that there's anything wrong with this team, but we're threadbare. We've got a very slim squad, and there's more that are going to go. There's Leno that's going. There's Lacazette that's going. There's it probably looks like Pepe's going to probably go in the end because he's not giving him the time of day. So we're going to have to bring in 5 or 6 players. It's a big summer, and a lot of it is resting on how we do towards the end of the season. So that's my worry. But as credit when credit's due, criticism it needs to be coming in when it's in your face.
You know what it is?
Go on.
You've got 2 transfer windows each year available to you. If you don't use one of them, then it means that you've got like double the amount of work to do in the next one. Like, and you're going to be always like chasing your tail. You're always going to be a few signings away. I'm not saying go out and buy players you don't want in January, but you've got a scouting department. Like, surely you've done some research and you've seen that you can add one player perhaps in a position. But now the task in the summer, like you said, you're looking at 6 or 7 more players. You've got all the players out on loan that are probably going to be sold as well because they're obviously not part of Arteta's plans. And you obviously the youth players, the next batch of youth players that are going to come through, they ain't going to be ready next year for the Premier League. No chance.
I mean, what did Tottenham do? Look, what did Tottenham do in January? Right?
Kulusevski, Bernardeschi,
Bentancur.
That's excited Bernardeschi. Bentancur.
Yeah, Bentancur. 2 ballers have turned out to do 2 ballers for Tottenham. And
well, we had Daniel on, and he told us how good Kulusevski was.
Yeah. I mean,
he's looking absolute fire.
He's on fire. But again, it's like Tottenham have gone, or Conte's gone. Right, okay. I want to be 4th. I'm Conte. I need to get Tottenham into 4th. I want to track. What have I got to do? I'm not going to do it with this lot at the moment. Yes, I've got to do the main business in the summer, but I need to do something in January to get.
And that's experience.
Yes, to get into the Champions League, and then once I'm in the Champions League in the summer, then I can get even better players because I'm in the Champions League, and I can attract them to Tottenham. So he's gone and went and bought Bentancur and Kulusevski. We knew who Kulusevski was and Bentancur. Most people never. Most people wouldn't have a clue who they was. But he's brought them in. They're fitted in, and they're going to get 4th. They will get 4th.
But if you look at the deal for Kulusevski, it's not ideal for Tottenham. They're not help. okay, it's not ideal if Kulusevski does great and then other teams want to come in and poach him. But Tottenham have got a loan option to buy. Arsenal, if they would have brought in a player with a loan option to buy, they could have had him till the end of the season. If it didn't work out for them, it didn't fancy him, they don't have to buy him. If he does work out and Arsenal get top 4 and they want to keep him because he's done well, they've got to pay that, 25 mil transfer fee that Tottenham have to pay now.
Yeah. That Arthur deal was all about 6 million. It was all about £6 million that Juventus wanted Arsenal to pay, and Arsenal wouldn't pay it.
So who vetoed that then?
So,
is that coming from the top? Is that coming from management? Is that coming from Edu?
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be anything to do with the management, really, should it? You know, Arteta and should be just going out and saying, "Look, I want him. I don't want to know about the money. I want that player." You know, so I'm assuming it's come from the top, who's turned man and put a blocker on it, because that was close. That was really close, that Arthur deal. You know, everybody was on board. It was only the fact that it was the 6 million that had to be paid, and Arsenal wouldn't pay it. So where Tottenham got their Bentancurs and we didn't get our Arthurs. Yeah.
And look, Arsenal were never going to go and buy a left back. So looking at Kieran Tierney being out for the rest of the season is by the by. However, Mikel Arteta did. Mikel Arteta, I'll get onto that in a minute. But Mikel Arteta did go out wasn't able to bring in a central midfielder, and he's gone out and put his best central midfielder, who's currently available in the team, into left back to cover that position that Kieran Tierney has vacated. Kieran Tierney, quickly before I go on to the Southampton game, do Arsenal need to seriously consider his position in the team? There's talk of him as captain, that position. They need to go out and buy a player who's like for like in ability, because having a backup to Kieran Tierney just seems risky, considering Kieran Tierney, his best season, has played 27 games in all competitions. This season he stopped in 22 games, and his first season with Arsenal he hit 25 games in all competitions. We're talking about a club who in all competitions we were playing up to 50 games a season, and Kieran Tierney's not even hit half of them. They need seriously to consider his position and bringing in a new left back in the summer. Steve, start with you.
I really like Kieran Tierney, but he's injured too much. He is injured too much. Like you've read off there, the games. If a big offer did come in for Kieran Tierney, a decent offer, and Arsenal took it, I wouldn't be that disappointed, because at the end of the day, he is a left back, and there's a lot of players on that Arsenal have got in different positions where you would worry about them leaving. But Kieran Tierney, where he's a left back, or even on the other side, if it was a right back, they're a bit, there's loads of them about. So if a deal come through or an offer came through for Kieran Tierney and we took it, I wouldn't be that disappointed. I'm sure there'd be loads of people that would be. Now, if he had a change of all of a sudden he wasn't getting injured and he was getting, he was playing games, then fine, I need to keep him. We'd keep him. But if he keeps on going like this, if we want to start moving forward, if we want to get, going and challenging for top fours, we can't have a left back who can't. I mean, look at Man City, look at Liverpool, even Spurs, and even Manchester United. You could say, they've got top left backs, and even one coming off the bench, and that's what we need. So we've got Tavares who isn't there yet, and Tierney who's never hardly playing. If an offer come in, mate, I'd be looking. I'd definitely be looking. If I was Arteta now, I'd be, keeping my ear out, seeing who's about. And that sounds really harsh because I love Kieran Tierney, but it's the way it is.
Jerome, What's your thoughts on Kieran Tierney? Do Arsenal need to go out and strengthen in that left back position now? Man City were looking at Tavares earlier in the summer.
Yeah.
Could have left them guessing. £45 million from eight.
You know what? We probably thought that we had our left back position sorted out. We had a very good first choice, and when Tavares played his first few games, we thought we've got a cracking second choice here. And if Tierney is going to be injured, we don't mind that because Tavares is excellent. And there was people sort of saying that Tavares should be sort of first choice because he was playing so well. Now, obviously, everything has changed. I wouldn't actively try and sell Tierney, but if Arteta doesn't fancy Tavares, which let's face it, based on the evidence before us, it doesn't look like he does. I think you've got to go out and you've got to find yourself either a first choice left back or someone that is at Tierney sort of level. And the trouble with that is that it's going to be a hard sell for a top quality left back for Arsenal to sell themselves to this player because the guy will know that he's got Tierney there. So it's a bit complicated. It's not a straightforward thing where you've got a space for a left back and you need to buy one. There is a first choice there. He's injured a lot. Is the new guy going to play? It makes it difficult, and that's why the Tavares thing at the beginning of the season was perfect. It was the perfect scenario, having those two types of players. Now, one's injured and one doesn't get picked, so we're in a mess.
If you're a top quality left back, are you genuinely worried about Kieran Tierney?
Yeah, I think you are, because you probably think if Tierney's fit, he plays.
I don't know.
That's why I think it's so tricky.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know if like a real top quality one would be that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm worried. If I'm a top left back, I don't know if I'm worried.
I'll give you an example, right? Someone who's been linked with Arsenal and is coming to the Premiership in the summer, Nicholas Tagliafico. Right,
I was say him.
Right, yeah. If he's coming to Arsenal, he don't care about Kieran Tierney. He's come in. I think we had James Rowe on once. We was talking about him. He said, if Tagliafico comes to Arsenal to play with Tierney,
he's not
what's in Tagliafico's is that I'm playing, he ain't.
Yeah.
And that's what when you've got an international, someone like that, or a sort of a seasoned player. I mean, what's Tagliafico? I mean, what is he, 28, something like that now? He's an Argentinian international. He's coming in. He ain't worried about Kieran Tierney. What? Be like that? Nah.
I'll tell you what.
I'm playing.
I'll tell you what, with someone like Tagliafico is that he's at the stage of his career where, let's be honest, it's going to be his last big contract. And I think what's more important to a guy like him is probably money. And I think that game time and the club, I think that comes unfortunately, I think that comes second.
But still at 28, surely he'd have sort of ambitions to sort of. He still going to have that drive. Surely he's still going to have that drive.
He's Argentinian as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I think maybe if he's 30, 31, it might, like if he's Lacazette, if we're looking at Lacazette to bring in Lacazette, that sort of player, you're worried. But if he's 28, I think you've got at least a couple of seasons of that, still that bite, that belief that, you know what, I could do something here.
But I think you're going to be in the same situation a couple of years down the road then, where you're going to... Yeah, I think then you're going to have to look for another left back in a couple of years' time. This is a very delicate, complicated situation, this left back position. It ain't easy to solve. And that's why we're having this chat, I suppose.
It's very tough. It's very, 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 very tough. Very tough.
But it's like on the other side, isn't it? Cedric's come in. I mean, I think he's been brilliant since he's came in. I like him. Mm-hmm. But he's been like... He gives me that impression that when he plays, I mean, I'm not saying he's fantastic every week, although I wouldn't say he's let us down at all. But it gives me that impression that when he plays, he's saying to himself in his head, because he's a Portuguese international, because he's 30-odd years of old, what is in his head, I'm pretty sure, is, Tommy, you're not getting past me, son. I'm playing. I'm playing here. You've got to try and get me out. And
Yeah.
I think he's kept his place, and I think he deserves to stay at this minute.
I think when you're that experienced, like, you know that it's not all just about ability, like natural ability, because like playing 45 games a season is an attribute. Like you can't. It's like it annoys me when people are like, oh, that player's not a techie. He's not technically gifted. He's not as good as him. Yeah, but I tell you what, he plays 35 games and this geezer gets 10. Why is that? Because he don't run. He's not strong enough. He's not quick enough. But if you give him time on the ball, he could ping a ball 25 yards. He could wrap one in the top corner and he could score a penalty with a Panenka. No one cares about that. No one cares about your guard footballers because, like, in reality, you need an athlete who can do both. But if you have to choose one or the other, I'm choosing an athlete who can play 35, 40 games a season, not someone who's going to let you down 20 of them and pull out a weldy in 10. Like, no, I'm not interested in that. It's about consistency. Consistency comes with being able to play a certain amount of games. And Kieran Tierney's attributes in the FIFA world, the big number at the top, is going down and down and down every season, that he's not being able to complete a full season, in my eyes, because that is a major part of being a top player and being at a top team.
And another thing about Kieran Tierney, Kears, is that he's not. You know, when he first came to Arsenal, it was all because we were so poor going forward. He was looking so good, wasn't he, going forward, that it was like, oh, Kieran Tierney's going forward, getting crosses in, scored a couple of goals, great. But now we've got Odegaard, Martinelli, Smith-Rowe, Partey, and they're all doing the forward stuff. And Kieran Tierney now has just become a left back.
Defender, yeah.
He is a left back. How often now do you see Kieran Tierney bombing down that left?
Until we get a striker who can put away some of the crosses that he puts in. And that's the problem as well. Yeah. No one's getting in the box. Yeah. No one's getting in the box, which is what frustrated me about the other day, circling back, was Brighton scored 2 goals, which were goals where they weren't even... Well, Trossard was in the box, but he was like... I don't know what the defending was from the midfielders because they were non-existent. Like, that was an absolute joke. And the second one, the geezer scored from the edge of the area. Other than that, what else did they do? Like, this is a frustrating thing. It's like I can't take it. The other day killed me. Before we go, let's quickly look at the Premier League table, the remaining games. Arsenal, people will say it's over. However, Arsenal are still 1 game in hand against Tottenham. They are 3 points behind Tottenham. The run's not been good. The goal difference is 10 off of Tottenham's. However, surprisingly, it is still in Arsenal's hands. I say that because they do have to play Spurs. They do have to play Chelsea. They do have to play Manchester United, and they have to play West Ham. 3 teams that are immediately around them. Tough games. tough running.
But Chelsea's our game in hand, isn't it? Wednesday. Chelsea's our game in hand.
Chelsea is Arsenal's game in hand. Arsenal have to pull something out of the box there. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a big ask. Steve, your thoughts? Tottenham, you think is going to do it?
I think so. You know, they got their bit between the teeth now. They look like a side that's gelling together nicely. Conte's settling in. They've got a good squad. You know, they've got players that they can bring on. You know, they're bringing on players like Bergwijn and Lo Celso, or maybe not Lo Celso, someone else. They've got Winks, and they've got players sitting on the bench that, you know, they can just bring on and that can win matches. We haven't. They've got Harry Kane. They've got Son.
I mean,
and they're on it. and they're on it at the moment. And and look, I mean, the last 2 games of the season, probably the 2 relegated sides, Burnley and Norwich, they got at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's theirs.
Arsenal have got a team who's battling relegation in Everton, and a team that have picked up in probably the best form turnaround in the league in Newcastle. For their last 2.
Yeah, I think West Ham, Chelsea, Manchester United all in a row, haven't we? I think
Tottenham,
and Tottenham, Leeds United, Newcastle.
Yeah.
It's going to be extremely tough, and I just hope now that we get into Europe, we don't drop into that Conference League, please.
Yeah.
And then in the summer we can go and get that a nice big striker, a big hefty, meaty striker. I don't want one of them little nippy ones again. Do you know what I mean? We need someone who's going to get stuck in up there. Put themselves about a bit. And. Someone like Ivan Toney or Martinez, something like that. Someone a bit who can give it.
Well, Arsenal probably need to bring in a couple, to be fair, because we're losing Nketiah, Lacazette. Even if they bring back Balogun, they still need to bring in two decent strikers. Otherwise, we're going to be battling on 4 fronts. Yeah, you need depth in squad and quality there as well. Jerome, any hope?
Slight, very slight.
Here we go.
Yeah, I wouldn't put any money on it though. You know what? I tell you, one of the big differences.
It's good that we're even talking about it, though, isn't it? At this time of the season, because we never thought we would be. 7 games.
The trouble is, for us to get it, I think we've got to play amazingly well. And for Spurs, they can play absolutely crap and they can still win games just because of their attacking players. Yeah,
Harry Kane. It's Harry Kane. Look, for all that we talk about Kulusevski, we could talk about any of these other Bentancur. We could talk about players they bought in the summer,
Son,
or players or Son. And quality players they've got like Bergwijn. They've got Harry Kane. They've got a player who scored 30 goals a season. And Arsenal haven't had that in years. 30 Premier League goals. Arsenal haven't had that. Someone who could put a golden boot. Last time Arsenal had that was Aubameyang a few seasons ago. And even then, we were missing things at the other end. So it seems like we've tightened up one end and we've completely lost the plot on the other end. And you just can't do that. You've got to have balance. And as long as Tottenham have Harry Kane, as long as Man United have Cristiano Ronaldo and other players like that around, and even the likes of Cavani, even though he's non-existent at the moment, they're always going to have more of a threat up front than Arsenal. And when we come to play those teams, they're the players that worry me. Not the players, the Scott McTominays, the Freds and whatnot like that, because we can match them. It's the Cristiano Ronaldos, the game changers, the Harry Kanes, who's the game changers. And Arsenal do not have that in Lacazette. And that's a problem.
If we had an Harry Kane, then
we'd have been over the line already. We'd have been all over the line. It wouldn't have been 0-0 against Brighton in the first game of the season. It wouldn't have been 0-0 against Burnley. It wouldn't have been 0-0, 1-0 against Crystal Palace. It would have been 2-1. Like, these are games which we would have crossed over the line and got wins in or got draws in against the likes of Everton or the likes of Man United. But we haven't. So, yeah. All right. This is all we have time for. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Steve.
Cheers, mate. Pleasure.
And thank you very much for joining us tonight, Jerome.
Yeah, of course. Pleasure. Cheers.
All right. It's official, people. We did hit 1K. We have hit the 1K mark on KS1 TV. So thank you very much for your support out there. We're not finished there, though. So keep hitting that like and subscribe button. We want everyone to know more and more about us. And there's plenty more to come as well. Big games coming up for Arsenal. We've got who we got coming up next? We have got Southampton on Saturday. Quickly, Steve. Southampton. Worried about that game?
Yeah, really. I am. I'm worried. I've been talking to a few people today, and I think it'd be a draw at best. You know, I think so. I know Southampton got hammered by Chelsea, didn't they? So they're going to want to prove a point. But you look at the midfield, and you don't know what he's going to do. Like Jerome said earlier, they've got players like James Ward-Prowse, in the middle there. They've got like that Romulage or something who plays in the middle there. They've got Brozier up front. And there's going to be a really, really hard game. And it worries me. And no matter what team he picks out, it's going to worry me. Yeah. Because of the lack of form of Laka. The injuries to Tierney and Partey, and those three particular things, it's like playing with 8 men. If you're gonna, so it's difficult, mate. Yeah, really worried. Best to draw, I think.
And quickly, Jerome, Southampton worried.
Yeah,
think we turn it around. I think this is a game to bring us back.
Yeah, we can because maybe we might not play great, but we can. I don't know. I think I'm just talking myself into it. I don't know. I am worried I'm worried that he's going to stick with the same team and formation and Xhaka left back, and if he does that, we've got no chance.
Well, Tottenham are at home to Brighton, so we got to win it. We got to win
it. Yeah. So let's hope that Brighton deals a favour, but I very much doubt it. They came off the back of a really poor run, but hopefully we were a team to spark them back into form after a draw, 0-0 draw. This is a team who's scored 26 goals this season in the Premier League, and they scored 2 past us, which is worrying because our defence has been one of our strong points this season. Thank you very much, everyone who's subscribed so far. Plenty more to come from KS1 TV, the Arsenal show, and all the other shows we have on the channel. Thank you very much for watching tonight. Please hit that like, subscribe, get involved in the comment section as well. Let us know what you want. Peace out, people. Stay safe and wash your hands.